Are you tired of feeling unsure if your assessments are really measuring your students' language proficiency? In this video, I'm going to answer some of the most pressing questions you might have. What are the key elements of a proficiency-based assessment? What's the difference between measuring proficiency and performance? And what makes this approach simple compared to traditional methods? Stick around because I'm not just giving you theory, I'll be sharing practical tips and strategies that you can use right away to design assessments that are not only accurate, but also easy to implement. Let's dive in and take your assessment game to the next level. So let's talk about key elements of proficiency-based assessment. Now, when we think of assessments, what usually comes to mind? Endless vocab lists, grammar drills, and students cramming right before a test. Been there, done that, right? But let me ask you this. Does memorizing verb conjugations in isolation really show if someone can use the language in the real world? Probably not. What if instead of focusing on how many grammar rules students can memorize, we flip the script and asked, can they actually use the language to communicate? That's where proficiency-based assessments come in. These aren't about who can fill in the most blanks or nail every irregular verb. No, they're about seeing if your students can survive and thrive in real situations. Can they order food at a restaurant? Can they chat with a local or follow directions in a new city? That's what we want to measure, real-world application. Here's the magic. Proficiency-based assessments emphasize comprehension and communication. This means we're looking at how well students understand what they hear or read and how effectively they can respond, whether it's speaking or writing. It's not just about being perfect, but about being understood. So by the end of your assessment, you're not just asking, did they memorize the vocab? But instead, can they use what they've learned to actually communicate? And that, my friend, is where the true language ability shines. All right, let's dive into proficiency versus performance because, honestly, the difference between the two can seem a little fuzzy at first. But trust me, once you get it, you'll start seeing assessments in a whole new light. So you've got a student who absolutely nails a vocab quiz, aces a grammar test, and can conjugate verbs like a pro. On paper, it looks like they've got everything down, right? But then, you throw them into a real-life conversation with a native speaker, and suddenly, all that knowledge seems to disappear. What happened? That, my friend, is the difference between performance and proficiency. Performance is like being able to pull off a specific trick in a controlled environment. Let's say conjugating verbs in the classroom or performing well on a written task where you know exactly what's expected. Proficiency, on the other hand, is about taking all that language knowledge and using it when it really counts, out in the wild. It's not just about being able to answer questions correctly. It's about navigating conversations, solving problems, and actually communicating with people when the situation's unpredictable. In other words, proficiency is how well your students can handle the language when they're not in the comfort zone of a classroom. So why does proficiency matter more? Because language isn't just a list of rules to follow. It's a tool for real-world interaction. When you focus on proficiency, you're not just preparing students for tests, you're preparing them for life. And that's the ultimate goal, right? You want to measure how well they can use the language, not just how well they can perform it in a specific scenario. That's when you start seeing the full picture of their language ability. All right, fellow language teachers, let's be real for a second. Classroom management? Yeah, it's kind of like trying to juggle flaming swords with riding a unicycle. Fun, right? But here's the thing. It doesn't have to feel like chaos. That's why we created Dynamic Discipline, a 10-part course all about building strong relationships with your students and mastering classroom management like a pro. You'll get live webinars, on-demand access, exclusive resources, and of course, the secret sauce to creating a positive, engaged classroom where everyone thrives. So if you're ready to say goodbye to the stress and hello to smooth sailing, head over to mm.us/discipline and grab your spot. Trust me, your future self and your students will thank you. And hey, who doesn't want a classroom where the biggest discipline problem is kids fighting over who gets to participate? Let's make it happen. Let's be real. Traditional assessments can feel like a total grind, both for teachers and students. We've all been there, right? You spend hours designing a test, crafting the perfect mix of questions, grading them, and by the end, you're left wondering, Did this even tell me what I need to know about my students? Plus, students feel the pressure too. Memorizing a bunch of rules just to pass a test they might forget a week later. It's exhausting. But here's the thing. Assessments don't have to be this complicated to be effective. What if I told you there's a simpler way that doesn't involve poring over complex rubrics or endless grading, but still delivers results that actually show you what your students can do with the language? That's what this approach is all about. It strips away the unnecessary fluff and focuses on what really matters, your students' ability to use the language in real-life situations. And the beauty of this method is that it's practical and easy to implement. You can use simple tools and templates like rubrics that focus on communication rather than perfection, or activities that mirror real-world tasks and have students describe an experience or solve a problem in the target language. No more grading individual grammar points or memorize vocab lists. Instead, you're focusing on what they can do with the language, making the process more streamlined while still giving you a clear picture of their proficiency. So you end up with a win-win. Less stress for you, less stress for your students, and results that actually mean something. No more complicated assessments, no more guesswork, just simple, effective strategies that show real progress. That's what makes this approach so powerful. All right, there you have it. Now you know the secret to creating simple, effective assessments that actually measure proficiency. But if you're ready to dive even deeper, I've got something just for you. Want to learn the top 5 strategies that will take your classroom to the next level? Make sure to check out the next video. It's packed with tips you won't want to miss. But before you go, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's the biggest challenge you faced when designing language assessments? Let's swap stories and help each other out. And as always, happy comprehensible input. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.